Hi guys, today I'm going to be teaching you how to create a double brim. A double brim is much thicker and squishier and more insulated because it is made up of 2 layers of knit fabric versus just a single layer. So what you want to do is knit until your brim measures twice the length that you would like your double brim to be. For instance, I want my double brim to be 2 inches in length, so I had to knit my brim until it measures 4 inches. I recommend getting a stitch marker that you can clip onto your work. That way we can make sure that we are knitting the correct stitches together. We are going to be knitting the top stitch with the very last stitch in the column. So we're lining up the top stitch and the bottom stitch, and we want to make sure they're aligned and not twisted. So you look at the first stitch on your left-hand needle and you'll see this column of V's. And you just want to follow that stitch all the way down to the bottom. So I found the very bottom stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and take my marker and place it on and secure it to that bottom stitch. Like I said, this is really important because we are going to then be folding our brim in on itself, and we want to make sure that the top and bottom of the same stitch column is lined up perfectly. So we're going to go ahead and fold in our brim, fold it into itself like this. And then I will show you the top. So you can see here, our marker is placed, and now we know where to align our stitches. So here's our first stitch on our left-hand needle, and the marker is where the bottom of that stitch column is. If you didn't align the top and bottom of the same stitch column correctly, then your stitches would be a little off center and it would make your brim look twisted and lumpy, and it just wouldn't work. So that's why it's really important that you make sure that the stitches are aligned appropriately. Okay, holding your working yarn to the side, you are going to take the tip of your left-hand needle and lift up the back loop of the stitch that you marked. So there's the front loop and the back loop of the V. You're going to lift up the back loop and knit those 2 stitches together. So 1, 2. 2 stitches on our left-hand needle now. We're going to knit those both together. Slide it off. Okay, so now that you've done that first initial stitch, you can either remove your stitch marker or you can leave it so you can tell when you make it back to the beginning. I like to remove my stitch marker, but it's whatever you prefer. Once you anchor that stitch, it's a lot easier to then move along the bottom and just follow the V-shaped stitch pattern. So I'm going to show you here. You can see these little V stitches that form. The next V stitch looks like that back leg got tucked in a little bit, so I'm just going to take the tip of my left-hand needle and pull up that back leg of the next V stitch and knit both of those stitches together. Okay, and just follow along. You can see here's the next V-shaped stitch here and here. So using the tip of my left-hand needle, I'm going to go into the next V-shaped stitch, pick up the back loop of that V. So the back loop. Now I have 2 stitches on my left-hand needle. I'm going to knit both of those stitches together. Then I'll move on to the next V-shaped stitch. You can see that little V. Using the tip of my left-hand needle, I'm going to pick up the back loop of that V-shaped stitch. See, there's the back loop. pick it up. Now I have 2 stitches on my left hand needle, and I will knit both of those stitches together. And that's it. You're really just going to continue seaming your beanie, your brim, until you make it all the way back to the beginning. So just follow along. I'll show you a couple more times. You can see there's the next V-shaped stitch. I'll use the tip of my left hand needle to pick up the back loop of that V-shaped stitch. And I will knit both of those stitches together. So keep going until you make it all the way back to the very beginning of your brim. Okay, so I have 1 stitch remaining, but here's a little trick that I like to do. If you have a cast on tail, if you don't want to have to weave it in later, you can go ahead and just tuck it into that little gap in your brim, and that way you don't even have to worry about it. You will seam it together and no one will even know it's there, and then you don't have to sew it in later. So when I make it to my last stitch, I like to tuck in my tail if I have one, and then here we go. We're going to pick up the back leg of that last V-shaped stitch and then knit those 2 stitches together, and that is it. I have seamed my entire brim, and now you should have this nice thick squishy double brim. You want to make sure that you have the same number of stitches on your needles as you did when you first began. So for me, I had 88 stitches, and I still have 88 stitches. You want to make sure that you don't drop any stitches or miss any. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that it helps. I'm going to be using this technique in my next video, so be on the lookout for that. Until next time, be well, and I will see you in the next one.